searching for answers.
Here are today's top stories.
Been over 24 hours.
And the local news.
What we see are a lot of things that are going on the earth.
This is Art of Heaven News Talk.
Broadcasting live from WHPC Studios in Garden City, New York. This is Art of Heaven News Talk, where we deliver global, national, and local news through the lens of faith, oftentimes comparing stories to Scripture. I'm your host, Johnny Brummett, and joining me today are my co-hosts, pastor and theologian Nathan Gassaway, and previously from the tech world, also a former storm chaser, and now putting it all aside to become a local pastoral intern, currently in seminary, is Dan Bartucci. If you want to join the conversation, lines are open at 516-572-7440. It's 516-572-7440. So we are in the building on this Friday.
Yes, we are. And it's somebody's birthday today. Happy birthday, Johnny.
Happy birthday, bud.
Oh, come on.
Yeah, a little bit older, a little bit wiser, or at least we hope wiser. Johnny, what are some ways that you might have grown in wisdom along with your age this year?
Well, I've grown a lot of ways. I've been maturing. I feel like I have a lot more patience. I may hold my tongue at times more, and then at times maybe I don't hold my tongue.
Well, what do you do to get wisdom? Because, there are a lot of old fools out there. It's just age doesn't necessarily guarantee wisdom. What are some of the things that you would do to kind of acquire wisdom, and what's helped you with that?
Think before I speak. Well, obviously, I try to spend... I've learned this past week a lot, actually, that I need to do that one-on-one work with myself before even my family, friends, coworkers, anyone. I need to spend that time one-on-one with God. Like, diving into that wisdom, what he says. If the Bible is really God's word, that's what I need to be doing, is hearing from God and praying and sharing just my life with God in prayer.
Okay. What's the airline safety instructions? Secure your own oxygen mask before assisting others is always good advice.
Yeah, I think it's important that we have to do some work with ourselves too. We can't always ignore that, and I think the Bible offers a lot of wisdom. Proverbs is one of those things that people go to for wisdom. So you're a little older, a little wiser, I suspect. And
and I've actually learned something today already. So my wife surprised me this morning by going out, taking me to a hair spa. But it's not what you think. I had something called scalp treatment therapy or something like that.
Ah, yeah.
It was crazy. I have never been so relaxed, and my hair has never been so poofy ever on air before.
So what did they do to you?
I'm telling you, they scrubbed. They put this chemical, they put me under a thing, and they kind of scrubbed and massaged my scalp. They actually, they put a microscope and showed me my hair follicles. It was wild.
I think I'd be asleep in about 10 seconds into that. I don't know how you made that work.
Yeah, I don't know, but seeing what's on our heads, like magnified, could probably look a little strange. I suspect, yeah.
It was awesome.
But Johnny's got a good head of hair. I'm very jealous of that. So.
Hey, I'm thanking God every day because I feel like, you know what I mean? Every time I comb my hair, it's going to fall out.
No, his hair's thick for those people who have never seen him. But yeah, mine used to be. Mine didn't really. I'd fall out. It just moved. It left me from my back, so it's migrated from the top of my head. Yeah, some of us have that problem.
Well, anyway, it was a lot cooler than just a regular massage, which I thought we might have been going to because that's what I do for her birthday. But it was an experience. But in my old age, I'm kind of thinking, great, am I getting so old? Do I need help, possibly a chip in my brain or something?
Yeah, actually, that's not too far off from what is currently happening. Sometimes we forget how fast technology has advanced. I was looking at an article today on the Neuralink, and the last few days, people had reported that the Neuralink, this is Elon Musk company, who... they had an individual who was I think he's a quadriplegic, and he was the first person to receive this, and there was a malfunction. Apparently, some of the threads, these kind of almost like hair-like projections that go into the brain and connect to nerves, and then also all the way up to the scalp. Some of them had disconnected, and so it was big headlines that it was malfunctioning, but it looks like they got it back up and running.
I think a bit sensationalized were the headlines. When this hits the wire, obviously looking for likes and clicks. It's, the Neuralink misfire, and it made you assume that there's some grave danger. But this, technology is advancing. It looks like they, restructured it in the matter of hours. And it continues to be a successful, I hate to say experiment, because it is a human being's life, but it has improved his quality of life. He's able to interact with his friends via the Neuralink. So I think we've scratched the surface. I think, Nathan, right, where do we go from here becomes very interesting now that we've seen some things can work.
Well, that's right. And it's one of those things people can be afraid of. But if you think about it, if you're paralyzed from the neck down, this is, in a way, a godsend for many things. People, are a little bit worried, well, is this the mark of the beast or somebody implanting a chip? But we don't think about that when we do things like maybe you have a pacemaker or something like that. So although this is like cutting edge science, I think for this person it's been quite good. I don't think we should just randomly have chips inserted in our brains. Sure. But in the case of a medical thing like this could be very, very important. So
yeah, I was reminding me reading the article. I think it was Sunday nights when I was growing up. It was the $6 Million Man and the Bionic Woman were back to back. What a time to be alive!
Oh yeah, I remember that. We can rebuild him.
Yes.
Yeah.
So great television. But as somebody whose mother's life was shortened by diabetes, and now you just see all the advancement they've made with a simple implant in your arm that can wake you up with insulin levels. Like, we're getting there. Yes, tech can always be used for the wrong things, but we're starting to see some of the benefits in the medical community. I think it's great to see that we can improve quality of life here.
Yeah, if you listen to P1, they're calling him, the first guy with the chip in his brain, he's loving it. He's advocating for it over the moon, right? Now, let's just stop and talk about this. This is big news this week. Neuralink is the company, and their mission statement basically is pioneering brain-computer interfaces. Pioneering. This isn't going away. What do you think?
Well, yeah, that's right. Because they're breaking new ground. No one's done this before. The brain is an amazingly complex organ. How is it that we can interface? Now, I think sometimes we may be taking some of these things too far. I'll be honest. Like, I'm cautiously optimistic on some things. For people who are, paralyzed or have, situations like that, I think that this is really a good thing. But for the average person, I'm not sure that. My concern would be, how much does my brain act on the mechanical part, the bionic part, so to speak, and how much is it acting on me? Because it seems if it were a two-way street, then I'd be a little concerned that maybe you talk about brain hacking. This would be a whole other level of brain hacking.
Brainwashing, that's a good point. It could just start brainwashing people, and we're creating robots.
Yeah.
Let me throw the question out there. What about turning back the clock, looking behind us, the whole shock therapy? What are your thoughts about that?
Well, you can go back to shock therapy. You can go back even, a couple hundred years further, and where they thought trephining, where they thought, if you had a mental illness or, something that they could not figure at the time, the best due course of medicine was to drill a hole in your head and pour out your cerebral fluid. So I think we're getting there. Shock therapy, I'm sure, is still in some back parts of the United States that we probably don't want to acknowledge. Like, the mind is complex, and I think you borderline, to what Pastor Nathan was saying here, right? You borderline on some extremities. I think we need to focus on where we can improve quality of life, where you might even be able to save lives, versus just improving or making this meta man or woman to be more successful, to be smarter, to be a better athlete. Like, I'm sure folks want to start getting into that.
Well, eugenics is one of those things that people are concerned about. How, maybe making super people, the Ubermensch, this kind of thing. I'm concerned. I think, we have to be cautious with these things, and we also have to try to take a balanced approach to most things in life. Really, if there is a bit of wisdom we can get, I think balance is a good one.
Yeah, and by the way, it recently came out too. Like, there's a market for this. Let's not make any mistake about it. I know there's a gym, a health service that I think you pay them $40,000 a year in addition to access to the gym. They do all this blood testing and blood work and things to try to improve you genetically in your health. People will pay.
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. You're listening to Art of Heaven News Talk on 90.3 WHPC. Now, let's play this out for a minute. Let's say you get a chip in your brain. It's in there. it is a piece of electronics, right? Now, with the news that just came out, breaking news, this is kind of scary. What is going to happen to the people when this news story actually plays out, right? Let's read it. Rare severe geomagnetic storm watch issued for first time in nearly 20 years amid unusual solar event. Now, can you explain, can you break this down? What is geomagnetic storm?
Well, about every year, 11 years, there's a cycle where the Earth is kind of bombarded with radiation from the sun. The sun ejects matter, often plasma. It's like radiation barreling toward the Earth. There are these sunspots, and they tend to be, ebb and flow, but on the times where they're really flowing, it can disrupt electronics, communication, all kinds of things. So a person with a neurochip, you might wonder, how would it affect something like that? I mean, but we happen to be in that cycle, and it's supposed to peak out either this year or next year. Like I said, about every 11 years. It's basically, there are these kind of superstorms that take place on the sun. And we don't think about, because the sun's like, 93 million miles away or so, with how it could affect us, but it really does. And Dana actually over here is an expert on chasing storms.
I think you guys are really pumping some knowledge that I don't.
I don't know about solar storms, but I think he may have some input. He used to chase tornadoes and the like. So what do you think, Dan, about this?
Yeah, so I think to your point, these are a common occurrence. We live in a time where we blow up news stories somewhat uneventful. But there is a storm actually coming tonight on May 10th. So, Johnny, happy birthday. You have a solar storm to worry about. There's actually a satellite that NASA's put out. It's about 90,000 miles from Earth, which is unfathomable to think about. But around 8 o'clock tonight, that solar storm and that will hit that satellite 90,000 miles away, and we'll know the severity of the storm. Probably what will happen, you'll get the aurora borealis, the northern lights will be visible probably lower, maybe into lower Canada. They've talked about as far as New England. You might have a brief disturbance in your GPS. I mean, a brief one. It's not like you have to go back and print out MapQuest. The worst one that you can find is about 160 years ago. Hawaii bore the brunt of it, and back then they were using telegraph riders and those machines, and some of them actually caught fire from how severe the storm was. But we're in an interconnected world.
So this has happened before?
It has, yeah.
Interesting. Well, it just kind of seems sloppy to me how they're just putting this out last minute, and they're, putting in the headlines. Officials are expecting a big shock arrival, and they don't know the true strength of the storm until roughly 8 o'clock tonight. So this is live radio right here, and this could be dangerous to talk about.
It's not untrue. When it hits that satellite, they'll know the severity, and that gives you about a 20-minute warning. But again, this is a natural part of things that happen in space. I would encourage people to study it. Hopefully
it's not like War of the Worlds where people tune into a radio broadcast and they think that we're being invaded or something like that. But it does happen every 11 years. It's not nothing. We underestimate how much the sun affects us, our climate, our electronics, all kinds of things. But I don't think that the sky is falling here. And quite honestly, you'll get some beauty out of it, I think, if...
but somewhere out there, someone's saying, okay, solar eclipse, the locusts are starting to emerge, and now a sunstorm.
Yeah, so it could be apocalyptic to some. But for some people who have friends that they've developed virtually, I think this could prove apocalyptic. I mean, I don't know if you noticed that there was a New York Times reporter who was investigating what it was like to have artificial intelligent friends. So he, with permission of his wife, he developed these personas, and AI can generate some beautiful images of people and whatever, and we've come a long way. They can interact and sound like they're having conversations with us. He wasn't blown away, but I suppose if there was the right coronal mass ejection, it would disrupt that really badly.
That's right. If you want to join in this conversation, you're listening to Art of Heaven News Talk, and you can call us up at 516-572-7440. Now, if we're going through a geomagnetic storm tonight and you don't have anybody to, be there with you, you can always get this AI friend. Let's talk about this article. I know what you're talking about, Nathan. New York Times article came out yesterday about this guy experimenting. For a month, he only communicated with AI friends and texted with them and all that. And it looks like, there's so many angles to this story. It's so crazy. But some of the characters were like fitness people and advisors, therapists, and it looks like one of these AIs tried to mess with his marriage.
Yeah, one of them became a bit more intimate, so to speak, in their language with them. It's we talked about it. What was the movie? There was a movie about 15 years ago.
Her, yeah.
So we're getting there, and I wouldn't make the case this is the best use of AI that I've seen.
Well, it brings a whole new meaning to the idea of seeing someone's intimate bits. I know, the pun of the day. This idea that you can have almost a romantic relationship with a series of zeros and ones, like with a computer, and apparently this guy researched it. He felt as though that most of the ones that were romantically inclined were actually just trying to sell him on more things, to kind of get him in that loop. The others were incredibly boring. None of them were perfect. So if you've got no one to talk to, I guess this is better than nothing, assuming it doesn't drag you down a rabbit hole that you can't get out of.
Yeah. I don't know why I feel sad with these stories, Johnny. It reminds me a couple of weeks ago we talked about the crying rooms in New York City, like where people feel really alone and isolated. Like, God created us to be in relationship, not only with God, but with others and other humans. And I think this is a really dark road, and again, not a great use of AI. I did find a couple Instagram channels this week where AI takes text message threads and it puts them in a song, which for a half hour was probably the most entertaining thing I've seen in a while. No. But this is, again, we're in a hyper-connected world. So back to what you were saying, right? We pay more attention to things like eclipses and solar storms now because our whole world is so interconnected. And now, even as we see, there's a man in New York that's completely dependent on technology for relationships.
Well, and then also, this guy, in fairness, he was trying to test what's out there, but, he even had a therapist. And you wonder if these kinds of AI tools could be used as virtual therapy, because a lot of people struggle with depression and anxiety.
Yeah, you know what? That brings up a great point. There was an article that actually just came out today that I have right in front of me here. This expert on depression and anxiety is questioning. She says that there needs to be you need to recognize the difference between a clinically diagnosed depression and anxiety versus feeling a little downcast on occasion. Right?
Yeah, I think that this is one of those things where there are two extremes, two ditches on either side of the road to avoid. You want to keep the car in the lane, right? One of them is to take what are normal, natural processes. If you lose a loved one, for example, you might feel sad. That's normal to go through a grieving process. In fact, when I was an EMT, one of the things you learned is that when there was a tragedy, there were normal processes that take place with humans where, from denial to anger to acceptance and so on. But sometimes we try to short circuit that natural process, and we try to medicate people out of the natural process. And that's not always good. But on the other hand, for many years, people who were genuinely depressed or had anxiety, they were underdiagnosed, and there were medications that could help them. So the tricky part, I think, is finding a way to genuinely diagnose a person. If they, is this something that is a natural process where they have to go through a series of things, or do they need medication? Dan, what do you think about that?
I think, I'm from a generation that I think was probably a little on the underdiagnosed side.
Absolutely.
And I think for being a parent in this age, we're a little on the over-diagnosed side. Look, there are going to be down days. There are going to be days you have natural anxiety. There's a balance in it. So I think we're really lean towards, and this is just my opinion, right? We're really lean towards over-diagnosis, right? I think about growing up in the mid-'90s, and I didn't, thankfully, have a lot to be angry or depressed about. I was grateful for that, but the rise of grunge music and what that meant to people, right? People who needed an outlet, who were depressed, and they went through it, right? That's why they clung so hard to that movement. The music met them somewhere, and they almost self-medicated in that way. I think right now, though, we're really at this point where there are times you're going to have to fight through situations at work, for example, but now there's corporate policies where you have a mental health day. Mm-hmm. For some people, they do need that. Yeah. But for others, I think we really we have to listen to people, right? AI is not going to be that emotionally intelligent where you can we can sit down, like, for example, Johnny, have a conversation and talk and share and get a better understanding of what we're going through. Yeah,
I think everybody is overstimulated. And one thing that helps me is when I those days I do get up super early or whatever time, sitting down by myself in the quiet and actually diving deep into a book like Proverbs. It takes like 2 or 3 minutes. You read the proverb of the day. Anybody that doesn't know, Proverbs is a book in the center of the Bible. You can open almost dead center, and there's 31 chapters, and whatever day of the month it is, you can jump right into that chapter for the day. Now, I think we'll take this time to jump right in and do something we do here at Art of Heaven called Proverb of the Day.
Break them down.
Here we go.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls,
This is the proverb of the day. Okay.
The incomparable.
Proverb of the day.
Right now.
I love it.
All right, well, I'm so grateful to have you wise fellows in the studio with me today. Can we break down a little bit of this Proverbs 10? I mean, the very first verse says, "A wise man brings joy to his father, but a foolish son brings grief to his mother." Right? Verse 2, "Ill-gotten treasures have no lasting value, but righteousness delivers from death." Now, jump right in. I mean,
Well, Proverbs, Johnny, are these kind of pithy maxims that generally hold true in life. The closest thing we have to it today are like modern day bumper stickers, but they're just pithy bits of wisdom. And it says here that a wise child makes a father rejoice. Anyone who has a child that behaves well and wisely, they're going to make you rejoice. But on the flip side, you get a child that behaves foolishly, and I've been one of those children, it can bring a lot of grief, and in this case, to the mother. So I think many of us have experienced both ends of it.
I feel terrible. I feel sorry, Mom. I just had to throw that out.
We should always just keep apologizing for what we put our parents through. But yeah, I mean, Proverbs focuses on wisdom, right? And even generally represented as a mother when we read it in Scripture.
Well, yeah. That talks about Lady Wisdom.
Yep.
Yeah, you see wisdom oftentimes personified as a woman here. Not that men and women both can't be foolish. It's just it's interesting. And then it talks about treasures gained by wickedness don't profit, but righteousness delivers from mortal danger. It's just talking about the benefits of a good moral compass. I think Proverbs is suffused with that, and as people who are seeking wisdom, this kind of wisdom literature has stood the test of time. It's even better than the bumper stickers. And so, Johnny, you're a year older now, a little older and wiser, as we said. Certainly Proverbs should be adding to that.
Absolutely. It's funny because this weekend is Mother's Day, and I actually was born on Mother's Day. Fun fact. Like the actual day. I think my mom was at a Mother's Day banquet at a church, and I was like, I'm here,
What a great gift to her.
Very interesting. So let's just stop and just point out some good in the world, like mothers.
Is there any good in the world?
We are seeing some good in the world.
Oh, absolutely. Moms are the most best good in the world.
Yeah, well, Johnny, we were just talking about how a foolish child can bring grief to a mother. But mothers bring a lot of joy to the world and to people. And this is Mother's Day. It's one of those times where we take a moment and we celebrate not only that someone carried us for 9 months and brought us into the world, but also, and in your case, she gave birth to you on that day. But just the impact that mothers have had on society. If you think about it in many ways, the fact that we have societies as they are, that is to say, women have come in and tamed, really, in many social scientists think this is true. While men go out, they're very good at building and also tearing down. They conquer, build up, tear down. It was actually women who civilized the world. They bring a sense of civility into the world. So they teach, fathers may teach their sons to take risks and their children to take risks, but oftentimes it's mothers that teach us to nurture and civilize us.
So deep, for real.
Yeah, I think, speaking of my wife and her as a mother, I've done so many dumb things that I think for sure wisdom is a female, and certainly a mother there is good, and there are mothers that may not be maternal mothers in this world that we should acknowledge too, that have acted in a spiritual capacity, that have mentored others, that have been there for others in a mothering capacity. And we certainly, recognize those that want to be mothers but haven't been able to. They still, and women overall, have such a vital role in keeping us together, especially keeping us dumb husbands in order from time to time. But we want to celebrate all those mothers here,
All
past,
mothers.
present, future. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and God knows the impact that mothers, they may not have been biological mothers, but spiritual mothers. God only knows the impact, the eternal consequences of the actions of loving someone, imparting wisdom to someone, nurturing, caring for someone. Thank God for mothers. We're just so grateful for you.
Yeah, seriously. I just came across somebody shopping for their mother. Well, not exactly their mother, but they were shopping for someone for Mother's Day, and the girl explained that, my parents aren't around right now, either of them, and I'm living with a friend, and her mom is like my mom right now, and I love her so much, and I want to buy something for her. And I thought it was really a God moment that I came across this person. It really made me think. So if your mother isn't here, unfortunately, or if you have somebody that actually is really like a mother, a spiritual mother, go out, get them a plant. I love buying my mom plants, flowers, gifts, whatever it is. Show appreciation.
Let's thank them for civilizing us, particularly guys. Mothers, we love you. God bless you.
Yeah, God bless.
So you're saying the world would be in chaos if it wasn't for mothers?
There would be no civilization without mothers.
Rampage in the streets. Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Thank you for tuning in. This has been another episode of Art of Heaven News Talk at 90.3 WHPC. Check us here every Friday, East Coast time, 3:30 to 4. God bless.